and there were moments that were genuinely scary. I loved all the paranoia.
I suppose one cast member we
good.
haven't mentioned who was really good was Maeve Modi, I want to say. Is that
it's only because she's my favourite thing about it. I just didn't mention her because I didn't know her
Is she the one that looks a little bit like Keeley Hawes?
Yes, sort of looks a bit like Keeley Hawes and a bit like Eve Miles.
Yeah,
I've
seen that.
Tiny bit like Keira Knightley in her early years.
But she's an Australian actress who hasn't... I think this is her first sort of major role in sort of British or American TV. I don't think she's been in anything else.
I think very similar to when the BBC showed the Inspector Calls in the latter half of last year. Again, this just was... It's such a good story. Once you get good actors in it, it's so hard to get this wrong. It really is. It makes me wonder whether the BBC will invest more now in... these kind of dramas. I mean, was this cross promotion?
You mean the BBC doesn't make enough costume dramas?
No, not costume dramas.
What sort of dramas?
You're saying adaptations?
Adaptations, rather than...
They do too many of them.
Well...
They do enough good ones.
Well,
but in that big list of in new dramas, they've announced adaptations of Howard's End and The Woman in White. So there's two.
Isn't Howard's End more a remake? I suppose, or...
No, you're thinking of Howard's Way, I think.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the boat. No, I was thinking of Howard.
Oh, it's a long one, this. It's a long one.
It's a long one.
Have you told your friends about this podcast? No. Well, tell them now. It's the Custard TV podcast.
There was a little programme, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, called Sherlock.
Well, it's fair to say that we're now into 2016, aren't we? And this was the first major show of 2016, and oh boy.
Yes. Who wants to take Sherlock?
I'm not.
Gary, go.
I didn't understand it. It was far too self-referential. I was just...
Should we just start by... I'll just sort of set it up a bit before we knock it down.
Yeah, I might understand it if you set it up. Yeah. Possibly.
Well, I'm not going to go through the entire plot of the...
Oh, damn it.
I'm not going to act it out. But this was The Abominable Bride, which was... By all it was set up, it was promoted as we're going back to the 19th century original Sherlock backdrop with obviously going from the 21st century storytelling device that the series has used thus far. So we had the original Baker Street with Mark Freeman, Benedict Cumberbatch acting as the original Holmes and Watson. The costumes, all that jazz were as they were back then, as we're used to. But they didn't act, they weren't hamming it up. It was basically them wearing different costumes, playing the same characters. As Gary said, there was a lot of sort of self-referential bits to the stories that Watson had been writing. The main mystery about a bride coming back from the dead to get revenge on people, it was almost lost, wasn't it, when they revealed halfway through, this is just sort of a drug-induced dream in the modern-day Sherlock is having.
What's that thing he has? It's called his Dream Theatre or something, or his...
No, Mind Palace.
Mind Palace.
Dream Theatre.
Same thing.
Not quite.
That was the point where I suddenly thought, am I on drugs? That was the point of the show where I thought, am I on drugs?
Oh, that turkey's repeating, that's what you thought.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on? And then when they, in the Victorian version, started mentioning modern things, then I got even more confused.
It was very jarring when they went in it was almost like, and I said this in the review I wrote for the website, thecustardtv.com, go and check that out, that it almost felt at times like the writer Stephen Moffat was going, I bet you didn't see that coming. Oh, look at that, aren't I clever? Rather than just sort of present the odd twist and turn here and there, which is what I think what we liked about Sherlock when it first started in 2010, was that it was sort of grown-up storytelling that had a couple of twists and turns here and there, but at the end of the day, still, you were still invested in the stories. But I think here, the fact they kept going in and out, and I agree with you, Gary, it got more and more confusing when in modern day, when he went into the grave of the woman and then ended up in the Reichenbach Falls with Moriarty. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was if somebody like Stephen Moffat read Twitter one week and thought, I'll try and get all these references in there. Like, people were annoyed that the episode that was called the Reichenbach Falls that this new version didn't have like the famous waterfall scene that they had. So I'll put that in. I'll put in the reference to the dogs, the Hound of Baskervilles, because we remade that and it was different. And it's as if he kind of thought, well, I'll and it just felt confusing.
I liked the stuff when they were looking into the drug problems and stuff, because it's not something that they've touched on much thus far. And the stuff where it gets serious, the bits between the relationship between Sherlock and Watson, those are the bits which are what I like about Sherlock. But I just felt it was trying to be too clever for its own good, and I don't know if Luke wants to add anything, or you're just sort of sitting there simmering in.
I think Stephen Moffat, I know you praised him for that Doctor Who, but I think he is one of those sort of writers who thinks he's a lot cleverer than he is and tries to...
Come on, Luke Pressgang was amazing.
I've met him twice now in person, and he is very smug about the viewers, and it's very much he's the writer and you're the viewer. And you're
poor Mark Gatiss, he's involved in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't write this one though,
did he? He spent too much time in a fat
suit on.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy it, and it didn't get us any further forward. What I would have enjoyed was if it was just the Victorian stuff, because I think with a Christmas special, and we all knew what we were getting.
Like with Doctor Who, isn't it?
I could have lived if they did the Victorian stuff, and then right at the end, you realise it's him drugged up in his mind palace. The bit that got me was the fact that was like 2/3 of the way through the show.
I think what you're taking away from it, though, is that Moriarty isn't back. He isn't coming back as a character. It's someone else.
But they could have done that at the very start of Series 4. No.
That's basically what you took away from the end of this episode. But to get there,
that's what I took away from the plot.
And by the time then the reveal about the Abominable Bride storyline came, you didn't care about it because
it was completely
you've been programmed to, this is all about Moriarty now.
Yeah.
Who cares about this other thing?
Yeah, you didn't give two hoots about the suffragettes, which was a shame because it was a good storyline. You didn't really care about it.
Detectiving programming. Endeavour was back on Sunday night. Gary, did we watch?
Of course, yes.
You say of course.
Well, no, but this is one of my favourites. This is one of my
favourites,
and I really, really liked this. This is Inspector Morse prequel. I think most people that have listened to this podcast before know exactly what it's about. Sean Evans playing Inspector Morse. A lovely little bit at the beginning about his first name. Actually, I did like that, where the woman was trying to guess his first name. That's quite funny.
Sort of midway through, but I'm just being pedantic. I don't know why.
But basically, from the end of the last series, Morse had spent some time in prison for allegedly shooting Roger Allam's character, and you got kind of like the bit of the back.
Can I just interject a moment?
Of course.
I want to say that was probably the bit that I wasn't very happy with. The fact that because they set up throughout the last series this big sort of conspiracy angle. And it almost felt like in the first minute or so they were just like, it's like we're throwing all of this out and sweeping it under the carpet. They did bring it up a little bit throughout the episode with Morse being...
Well, my other complaint about that side of the story was we all watched it together, not the three of us, but the people I was watching it with, and we're big Endeavour fans, and because it's been nearly 2 years, it would have been quite helpful to have a previously on Endeavour, because I knew the vague outline of what had happened, but I wanted to go back a tiny bit, and it would have helped me enjoy it more.
Do you think they're going to bring that up again? Because there were hints that Morse isn't going to let it lie.
I think this was your only kind of reference to that, because they want to get it back to normal. They want to get back to the idea that he's back in the police force and all that, in my opinion. One of the best things that I think about Endeavour, personally, is the way in which each individual kind of section feels like its own little act in a play. I mean, there was a lot of good performances.
This was basically the Great Gatsby, wasn't it? I mean,
it was very much.
Was living in this little... Endeavour was living in this little hut on the river next to this million... It just seemed very convenient that I've got this little hut on the river next to this massive mansion where this sort of eccentric billionaire lives, who just happens to, and it's all connected to this fairground and stuff like that, and this dead bus conductor.
But I suppose, again, it's a reminder that he actually did attend college in Oxford, came from a very wealthy upbringing. He is very classic in it, and the fact that he is very versed in classics, that's the Morse character. The reveal at the end, where he says, perhaps you shouldn't choose a name that comes from, I think it was Prometheus or Odysseus. But it's a reminder that he's into his classical music. He is that.
It's a testament to how strong the episode was that I didn't actually think like Matt. Now he says it was very convenient that Morse was living next door to all these people.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't really make the connection then.
No, I agree.
I think the resolved mystery was a bit weak. I didn't like.
I like the resolve of it. I didn't. I mean, the fact was that all the characters are quite flimsily drawn and were almost sort of too larger than life in a way for you to believe that they lived in that sort of sedate Oxfordshire countryside alongside the people. I mean, I know a lot of them were sort of circus folk, and. But it was, I think, and you mentioned this in your review, Luke, on the website, that it was just splendidly shot and just really lovely to look at.
It looks stunning. Yeah. It really does look stunning.
And I think this is the perfect sort of middle ground between interesting twist story and sensible narrative device. That it got away with a little bit more without trying to confuse the audience and outsmart them at every turn like Sherlock did. And again, I think the chemistry here between Sean Evans and Roger Allam is absolutely brilliant. I love both of them, and I just think it's a great combination. It's one of those that just sort of works. Roger Allam especially is really, really good in this.
And also Sherlock with its 90-minute time run, and Morse with its Endeavour with its 2-hour time run, it's worlds apart. I was really invested in.
Didn't feel like 2 hours at all.
And looking at the clock.
Well, it's an hour and a half with ads, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Deutschland 83 was also on Sunday night on Channel 4. Did we all watch this?
Of course.
We did.
Gary?
Of course. Don't say of course like you always watch it.
You told me to watch it, so
when I say did we all watch this, I mean, Gary, did you watch this?
Yeah, that's what we really mean.
Yes, I did.
It's a nice way of asking whether you did.
Yes, I did, and I liked it.
Do you want to lead this one then?
Okay, well this is this should be good. You might have to help me along the way with this one.
Luke, you do this one then.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, well, no, I'll set the scene.
Let him do it. It's funnier if he does it.
This is part of a new Channel 4 online service called Walter Presents, and I've done my.
It's actually Walter Presents.
Present. Walter is the name of the person who the company was founded by that has basically put together all these shows. It's the name of an international company that's on.
You know what you said about tuning out during Sherlock?
Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, a lot of foreign dramas, a real mixture, crime, comedy, different
Political.
shows. One about poker, I believe. Is being shown on all four. Yeah, it's true. On all four. It's also on Freeview. I believe this is a channel you can watch on Freeview and stuff like that. But
I don't know whether that's true.
Well, I don't know. But you'll be able to get it on all
four.
Tell
us about Deutschland 83, Gary.
Deutschland 83 is the first of these. There's many more coming. It's basically a similar plot device to the Americans, but of course set completely differently in West Germany, but is set in the 1980s around the height of the Cold War, Reagan administration, and it's about East Germany wanting to put people in powerful positions in West Germany to spy on their negotiations with the Americans around possible nuclear deterrence or nuclear threats against Russia. I do not know the names of the characters, I'm afraid. I have to admit that up front. A German lady recruits her
There's
nephew.
a lot of Germans in it.
Yeah.
I love this. This is a great...
An East German lady.
Yeah, she recruits her dying sister, her cancerous sister's oldest son, who's an East German soldier, to go and be... Well, we don't know that. To go and be...
Yes, we do. She said he's my only